Horrid Henry's Knits. Francesca Simon. 1. Horrid Henry's Knits. Scratch. 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 Dad scratched his head. Stop scratching, please, said Mom. We're eating dinner. Mom scratched her head. Stop scratching, please, said Dad. We're eating dinner. Henry scratched his head. Stop scratching, Henry, said Mom and Dad. Oh, said Mom. She put down her fork and frowned at Henry. Henry, do you have knits again? Of course not, said Henry. Come over to the sink, Henry, said Mom. Why, said Henry. I need to check your head. Henry dragged his feet over to her as slowly as possible. It's not fair, he thought. It wasn't his fault Knits loved him. Henry's head was a gathering place for knits far and wide. They probably held knit parties there and foreign knits visited him on their holidays. Mom dragged the knit comb across Henry's head. She made a face and groaned. You're crawling with knits, Henry, said Mom. Ooh, let's see, said Henry. He always liked counting how many knits he had. 1, 2, 3, 45, 46, 47. He counted, dropping them onto a paper towel. It's not polite to count knits, said his younger brother, Perfect Peter, wiping his mouth with his spotless napkin, is it, Mom? It certainly isn't, said Mom. Dad dragged the knit comb across his head and made a face. Said Dad. Mom dragged the comb through her hair. Bleach, said Mom. Mom combed Perfect Peter's hair. Then she did it again. And again. And again. No knits, Peter, said Mom, smiling. As usual. Well done, darling. Perfect Peter smiled modestly. It's because I wash and comb my hair every night, said Peter. Henry scowled. True, his hair was filthy, but then. Knits love clean hair, said Henry. No, they don't, said Peter. I've never ever had knits. We'll see about that, thought Henry. When no one was looking, he picked a few knits off the paper towel. Then he wandered over to Peter and casually fingered a lock of his hair. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Mom, squealed Peter. Henry's pulling my hair. Stop it, Henry, said Dad. I wasn't pulling his hair, said Henry indignantly. I just wanted to see how clean it was. And it is so lovely and clean, added Henry sweetly. I wish my hair was as clean as Peter's. Peter beamed. It wasn't often that Henry said anything nice to him. Right, said Mum grimly, everyone upstairs. It's shampoo time. And oh, shrieked horrid Henry. No shampoo! He hated the stinky, smelly, horrible shampoo much more than he hated having knits. Only today his teacher, Miss Battleaxe, had sent home a knit letter. Naturally, Henry had crumpled up the letter and thrown it away. He was never ever going to have Pongy knit shampoo on his head again. What rotten luck, Mom had spotted him scratching. It's the only way to get rid of knits, said Dad. But it never works, screamed Henry. And he ran for the door. Mom and Dad grabbed him. Then they dragged him kicking and screaming to the bathroom. Knits are living creatures, howled Henry. Why kill them? Because, said Mom. Because they're blood-sucking nits, said Dad. Blood-sucking. Henry had never thought of that. In the split second that he stood still to consider this interesting information, Mom emptied the bottle of supersonic nit-blasting shampoo over his hair. "No!" screamed Henry. Frantically, he shook his head. There was shampoo on the door. There was shampoo on the floor. There was shampoo all over Mom and Dad. The only place there was no shampoo was on Henry's head. "Henry! Stop being horrid," yelled Dad, wiping shampoo off his shirt. "What a big fuss over nothing," said Peter. Henry lunged at him. Mom seized Henry by the collar and held him back. "Now, Peter," said Mom. "That wasn't a kind thing to say to Henry, was it? Not everyone is as brave as you." "You're right, Mom," said perfect Peter. "I was being rude and thoughtless. It won't happen again. I'm so sorry, Henry." Mom smiled at him. "That was a perfect apology, Peter. As for you, Henry," she sighed, "we'll get more shampoo tomorrow." Phew, thought Henry, giving his head an extra good scratch. Safe for one more day. The next morning at school, a group of parents burst into the classroom, waving the knit letter and shouting. "My Margaret doesn't have knits," shrieked moody Margaret's mother. "She never has and she never will. How dare you send home such a letter?" "My Josh doesn't have knits," shouted his mother. "The idea!" "My Toby doesn't have knits," shouted his father. "Some nasty child in this class isn't bug-busting." Miss Battleaxe squared her shoulders. "Rest assured that the culprit will be found," she said. "I have declared war on knits." Scratch. 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 Miss Battleaxe spun round. Her beady eyes swiveled over the class. "Who's scratching?" she demanded. Silence. Henry bent over his worksheet and tried to look studious. "Henry is," said moody Margaret. "Liar," shouted horrid Henry. "It was William." Weepy William burst into tears. "No, it wasn't," he sobbed. Miss Battleaxe glared at the class. "I'm going to find out once and for all who's got knits," she growled. "I don't," shouted moody Margaret. "I don't," shouted rude Ralph. "I don't," shouted horrid Henry. "Silence," ordered Miss Battleaxe. "Nora, the knit nurse, is coming this morning. Who's got knits? Who's not bug-busting? We'll all find out soon." "Oh," thought Henry. "Now I'm sunk." There was no escaping Knitty Nora Bug Explorer and her ferocious combs. Everyone would know he had the knits. Rude Ralph would never. Stop teasing him. He'd be shampooed every night. Mom and Dad would find out about all the knit letters he'd thrown away. He could of course get a tummy ache double quick and be sent home. But Knitty Nora had a horrible way of remembering whose head she hadn't checked and then combing it in front of the whole class. He could run screaming out of the door saying he'd caught mad cow disease. But somehow he didn't think Miss Battleaxe would believe him. There was no way out. This time he was well and truly stuck. Unless... Suddenly Henry had a wonderful, spectacular idea. It was so wicked, and so horrible that even horrid Henry hesitated. But only for a moment. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Henry leaned over clever Claire and brushed his head lightly against hers. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Get away from me, Henry, hissed Claire. I was just admiring your lovely picture, said Henry. He got up to sharpen his pencil. On his way to the sharpener he brushed against greedy Graham. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. On his way back from the sharpener Henry stumbled and fell against anxious Andrew. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Ow, yelped Andrew. Sorry, Andrew, said Henry. What big clumsy feet I have. Whoops, he added, tripping over the carpet and banging heads with Weepy William. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Why, wailed William. Sit down at once, Henry, said Miss Battleaxe. William! Stop scratching. Bert! How do you spell cat? I dunno, said beefy Bert. Horrid Henry leaned across the table and put his head close to Bert's. C-A-T, he whispered helpfully. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Then horrid Henry raised his hand. Yes, said Miss Battleaxe. I don't understand these instructions, said Henry sweetly. Could you help me, please? Miss Battleaxe frowned. She liked to keep as far away from Henry as possible. Reluctantly she came closer and bent over his work. Henry leaned his head near hers. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. There was a pounding at the door. Then Nitty Nora marched into the classroom, bristling with combs and other instruments of torture. Line up, everyone, said Miss Battleaxe, patting her hair. The knit nurse is here. Rats, thought Henry. He'd hardly started. Slowly he stood up. Everyone pushed and shoved to be first in line. Then a few children remembered what they were lining up for and stampeded towards the back. Horrid Henry saw his chance and took it. He charged through the squabbling children, brushing against everyone as fast as he could. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Leap. Scratch. Scratch. Henry, shouted Miss Battleaxe. Stay in at playtime. Now go to the end of the queue. The rest of you, stop this nonsense at once. Moody Margaret had fought longest and hardest to be first. Proudly she presented her head to Nitty Nora. I certainly don't have knits, she said. Nitty Nora stuck the comb in. Knits, she announced, stuffing a knit note into Margaret's hand. For once Margaret was too shocked to speak. But, she gasped. Tee-hee, thought Henry. Now he wouldn't be the only one. Next, said Nitty Nora. She stuck the comb in Rude Ralph's greasy hair. Knits, she announced. Knitface, hissed horrid Henry, beside himself with glee. Knits, said Nitty Nora, poking her comb into lazy Linda's mop. Knits, said Nitty Nora, prodding greedy Graham's frizzy hair. Knits, 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 she continued, pointing at Weepy William, Clever Claire, Sour Susan, Beefy Bert and Dizzy Dave. Then knitting Nora beckoned to Miss Battleaxe. Teachers too, she ordered. Miss Battleaxe's jaw dropped. I have been teaching for 25 years and I have never had knits, she said. Don't waste your time checking me. Knitting Nora ignored her protests and stuck in the comb. HMMN, she said, and whispered in Miss Battleaxe's ear. No, howled Miss Battleaxe. No. Then she joined the line of weeping, wailing children clutching their knit notes.